All right. Welcome back, Kevin Barker.
Yeah, I need you to tell everybody right now how much you miss me and you never want to do the show again without me. Go ahead. Tell everybody that's listening.
What, that I never want to do the show again?
That without me.
Oh, without you?
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah, I'd rather not.
Yeah. And that you'll buy me coffee the rest of the year.
Yeah, that's not happening. That I can guarantee.
What?
I can guarantee that won't happen. It is Friday. We're going to go to the back leg line,
Yes.
416-413. I want to get right into it. 416-413-3959. Leave us a voice note. We're going to fill in our time during this show by going to the back leg line. Jake Bloss is going to join us.
Nice.
He's with the Buffalo Bisons. He'll be with the Blue Jays at some point. John Schneider, of course, will also be along. But I took a very quick walk around the Rogers Center last night before the game. I just wanted to meet somebody in town going to the game.
Did you get yelled at?
Oh, I didn't get yelled at.
No.
I had a couple of people stop, and everybody asked where you were.
Yep.
And nobody asked how you were. They just wanted to know where you were.
Oh.
But a couple of folks that I spoke to, both of them were talking about how, and both of them are season ticket holders. Both of them were talking about how they were actually enjoying what they've been seeing lately from the Blue Jays. Now, everybody, obviously their quality of opposition, the usual caveats apply.
Yeah.
I think everybody would prefer that we were talking playoffs and meaningful baseball in September. But the point was, they were enjoying seeing Spencer Horwitz. They're enjoying seeing Will Wagner, Joey Loperfido, Leo Jimenez. They were really enjoying seeing the young position players. I won't tell you what they said about the bullpen. We'll leave that aside for now. But, Kevin, since August 11th, the Blue Jays are first in the majors in home runs with 21. First in the majors in extra base hits with 47. And first in the majors in slugging percentage with 488. And, of course, last night, we have the MLB network on here. They're still talking about Ernie Clement's home run that he hit last night. I want to ask you about that in particular. But they're an easier watch now, aren't they?
Yeah, I think they hit homers. I think when you hit homers, it's fun to watch. When you don't hit homers, it's not fun to watch. You want to turn your TV off, and you don't want to watch it again. That's sort of the gist of this thing. And, we've been saying this forever. They need thumpers. They need guys that come in here and can leave the yard and hide the woes that they do have. Maybe a bullpen arm they don't like, or maybe a starter that has some issues. You can overcome that when you hit homers, and they're hitting some homers. I think the Ernie Clement thing is a little bit of a surprise. People didn't really understand that he was this good.
Yeah, but he's over, and I know what you think about WAR.
Right?
He's over 3 WAR right now.
He's a solid player. That's about, what's that? He was supposed to give him $24 million now. Come on, he's not a $24 million player, but he is a player that now I think you can pencil in for next year. You're okay if you couldn't sort of solidify maybe that third base spot, put him at the bottom of that order, him playing third, the way he plays defense.
I mean,
I'll
tell you, I think we're probably looking at Vladdy at third next year. But
I hope not. I mean, I'm in that camp. Yeah. So look, it's.
But anyhow, your point is well made.
I think Kirk, having better at bats for whatever reason. He looks quicker, faster, just everything he's doing, fast twitch muscles. For whatever reason, the seasons went longer. He's looked quicker. Just everything looks faster, better. He's getting the balls. He's catching up the velocity. He can pull it in the air. He's doing some things that's fun to watch. Loperfido.
Even his measurable things like pop time and all that, they're better. I mean, they're just quicker.
Yeah. I mean, he's always been decent at that, right? That's been one of his strengths is that, right? He's sort of been the last couple of years a defensive first player. But now I think offensively, it just looks like he's not trying to force getting the barrel through the zone, which is, again, back to the people you talk to, fun to watch. Loperfido, I don't think he's a finished product yet, but if he wants to be a big leaguer, he wants to be a part of this team, extra base hits, driving the baseball, getting the ball in the air. That's a big part of what he's trying to do. He looks a little freer and easier to me. It's not a finished thing yet. I think it needs to get better, right?
Maybe he's just becoming a little more comfortable. Or maybe somebody walk up to him and go, dude, loosen up. It's baseball. Have a little fun.
maybe that's it too. Maybe it's a combination of a couple of those things, trying to fit in the clubhouse, trying to, again, you know what's around you. You know what, if you hit, that's the thing they're going to pencil off and not have to think they got to go out and solidify or try and find a piece to fill in that spot. So, yeah, look, and the big boy's doing his thing. Again, I said this to you. When the big boy's doing his thing, this team's just fun. Mm-hmm. Like, it really is. Like, you can see how it just sort of trickles down to everybody else. And, I hope what they don't fall into is they're seeing Horowitz have some decent at-bats in the cleanup spot, thinking that they found their cleanup hitter. I hope that's not what we're figuring out here in this little stretch against some bad teams and through September. Hopefully they don't think Dalton Varsho, this 20-game streak that he's been on base, that they think they found their two-hole hitter. Now, again, when Bo gets back, that'll be probably one of the spots that's been taken, and those two guys, hopefully, fingers crossed, will be moved down in the order. But I just hope that's what they're not learning, Jeff, is, and you know as well as I do, whenever they're seeing some things play out right in front of them, again, it just gets back to that thing. We've been saying this for, at least I have, for the last couple of years. They need a cleanup hitter. They need a guy that can protect their whatever and hide some things. And I'm with the couple people you talk to. I think it is a little bit more fun. Would you like to see more winning? More winning comes with better pitching. That's how you win, right? You sort of mesh them together, and, you hit home runs. You get the lead early because you're hitting home runs. Your best player's your best player, and then you got a sixth-inning guy, you got a seventh-inning guy, you got an eighth-inning guy, you got a ninth-inning guy. And when you got an eighth and ninth-inning guy, makes it easier for the manager, and that's how you win a bunch of baseball games. So I told you this, and I'll continue to say it. They're not far away. They know what they need now.
Jays beat Anaheim 5-3 last night. The third game of this series will be tonight. Second game of this series goes tonight.
Boy.
At the Rogers Center.
That beat you.
Okay, let's talk about Ernie Clement's home run. Sportsnet stats. Technically, you can say it was the highest pitch hit for a home run in the pitch tracking era. I mean, there was one more that was lobbed in, I think, and didn't really count. But we're talking about a legitimate pitch.
Yeah.
We saw the reaction in the dugout. I want to know your reaction. Someone who's hit bombs.
Yeah.
Break it down for me, because Ernie Clement hits a ball. Again, it's above or at his eye level.
Yeah.
Just break that down for me.
Yeah, I think the first thing you got to point your finger at is looking fastball. I think that's what it is. I think to look fastball all the time puts you in an athletic position, allows you to be yourself. That's the goal, right? Is to, when you walk to the plate, how can I consistently, repeatably, put myself in the position where I look the same all the time? His lower half sort of matches up with his hands most, if not all the time, which allows him to get the barrel to all kinds of different quadrants, right? We saw him hit that home run in San Francisco on the ball around his ankles.
Yeah,
and
I think if I'm not mistaken, he's hit one of the lowest home run pitches for home run in Blue Jay history. And one of the highest in the pitch tracking
like
era.
Again, I don't know if you can make a career off doing that, but it just tells you how comfortable he is with what he's trying to do at the plate and how simple it is. I've said this forever. Hitting is not rocket science. It is not. They try and turn it into it. The 19 hitting coaches that the Blue Jays got. It took me 8 minutes to drop 19.
I was waiting. Khakis is the next.
It's really not that hard. It is.
Barker,
and Ernie,
bingo. Barker, bingo.
Ernie Clement is prime example of that. He's got quick enough hands. He tries to stay in the big part of the field. He looks for good old number one all the time. And I'm going to adjust when I have to adjust. They throw the fastball at least 50% of the time. Why would I look breaking ball? Nobody else can hit it. Why would I look for it? And I think that's what you're seeing matched up is athleticism, bat the ball skills, that repeatability of mechanics with foot to hand. All of it looks the same, and it's very simple. I could go to a 4-year-old or a 5-year-old that just learned how to hit and say, hit like Ernie Clement. They could do it. That's the beauty of it. That's what I said. I'm not saying it's slump-proof.
Yeah.
But if he can consistently, I don't even know what his zone is now. It's middle. How about we say that?
Yeah.
It's middle, and there's a big line in the middle of the strike zone. If he keeps it in there because of what he does with his mechanics and how easy that mental approach is, again, he's earned his way right now. He's one of the dudes who's taking advantage of this little opportunity he's been given. And I don't know about you, but if they had a couple of thumpers and he plays third opening day next year,
I'm okay.
Are you okay?
Okay.
If they had two thumpers, not one, two thumpers, two grown men with hair on their chest that 19 hitting coaches don't have to walk up to and go, "Are you okay? Can we help you?" No, I get out of here. I know what I'm doing. Go help somebody else.
I think I would be.
That's what we want.
I would be okay with Ernie Clement playing third and hitting maybe seventh in a good lineup.
Yeah, he's not. He's not hitting fifth. He's not hitting second. If the 1 through 4 is taken care of, you're okay with him playing third.
Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah.
416-413-3959 is the back leg line. A reminder, we'll be joined later on in the show by Ryan Divish, who covers the Seattle Mariners for the Seattle Times. The Mariners fired their manager, Scott Servais.
Stay hot. Learning that when you wake up on social media. Man, would you be chapped? I'd be chapped. I would have been chapped. You've been there 9 years, right?
I mean,
you'd have been chapped, too. You'd have been texting me like crazy. You see what happened? I don't know. That's a terrible way to learn how you got fired.
Yeah, the way it's like Danny Jansen learning that he was traded in the ticker. I mean, the way social media is now.
Yeah, getting fired and being traded. Traded means you still have a job. Being fired means you no longer are employed by your team. That's totally different.
416-413-3959 is the back leg line. Braden in Whitehorse.
Awesome.
I wanted to get your opinion on two possible free agent / trade options for the Blue Jays and whether or not you think that would solve their offensive problems. Purely offensive, I know that they've got many holes that they have to fill during this offseason, but I just want to know, do you think if the Blue Jays swung a trade with the A's for Brent Rooker and signed Teoscar Hernandez during the offseason, if that would be enough offense to replace the problems they've been having for the last couple of years? I just also wanted to say it was super nice hearing from Danny Jansen. Glad he's doing well in Boston this year, and I absolutely will cheer for them if they make playoffs, and I hope he comes back in the offseason. Thanks, guys, and you're the best.
Thanks, Braden. Appreciate the call. Appreciate the sentiment. I mean, the Teoscar Hernandez.
Go ahead. You can say it.
I mean, no. Would I complain? No. Do I think it'll happen? No.
Why would it not happen?
Do you think these guys?
You don't want to say it? Go ahead.
Do you think this front office can check its pride enough that it would go back and cap in hand to Teoscar and say, "Pretty please come and play for us"?
It ain't going to be that. It ain't going to cost you tons of money. You give him a 3-year deal at some kind of number, he's coming. No matter you don't have to like each other. He gonna be cheaper than a Christian Walker. He'd be cheaper than a Pete Alonso. Reese Hoskins not going to move the needle enough to. I mean, that's basically bringing in Turner.
Brent Rooker. I mean, I'm that can't be my big guy. If he's one of the other guys I bring in, that's fine. But no, I think we're talking a Pete Alonso caliber slugger. Like we're talking a guy who will come in and be. I'll tell you what, we're talking about a guy who would come in and be your best hitter by far, were it not for Vladdy. That's basically what we're talking about.
Anthony Santander with somebody else that's sort of similar to him.
I would think if I'm a free agent, first question I'm going to ask the front office here is, I'm interested. You guys going to have Vladdy around? I guarantee.
I got to be honest with you. I could care less about that.
I'll tell you what.
As well as anybody, they're looking for the money.
I guarantee you Teoscar would ask that question.
Maybe.
I guarantee you
Teoscar's at, I think, the point of his career he's going to take the highest bidder. If the Jays are the highest bidder, he'll come here.
Max in East York.
Good call, though.
Yeah, it was. Max in East York.
I had a question for Mr. Barker.
Good, I can leave.
You may know a little bit about this stuff. I was wondering, Spencer Horwitz has not played a lot of second base, although he's done well for himself this year. Would it be beneficial for him to go down and play some winter ball at second base? And do you think it would be helpful for him for his future with the Blue Jays? Thanks.
That's a great call. Here's what I'll say to that. I think Spencer is probably one of those players you could throw in there with Ernie that thinks they got a spot next year. I went to winter ball because I was trying to get a job next year, not in the minor leagues, in the big leagues. Those two guys going into the offseason, if everything stays the way it is and they keep having the at-bats that they keep having and show that defensively they're not a liability and going to hurt their team, they're basically penciled in. Those two are the dudes, right? And then there's everybody else who's trying to figure out whether they're going to be a part of your team, depending on what you go out and get and what you don't get. I would love to see him go down there and learn just how to deal with expectations. That's an expectations place. You perform, you stay. You don't, you go. It's real simple. There's no in between. I would love to see that, but it won't happen.
No, at this point,
you ain't going if you don't have to go.
No, with the number of at bats they're going to have at the end of the year, and
I had 600 at bats almost every year. I went.
The number of at bats they're going to have in the major leagues this year, and if they finish their season on a high, they're not going down to winter ball. I think we've got a good enough read on
that is the question too, right? The expectations part of it, because nobody expected either one of them dudes to do anything coming into the big leagues this year. Going into next year, we're going to be expecting them to do exactly what they're doing now. Yeah, there's a different element to that. We've seen it play out early in the season. Yeah, it's a thing.
But I'm just not certain that going down to winter ball makes you.
I'm not saying that, but the caller's saying that about his defense, right? You don't see him play a lot of second. Is he going to be your everyday second baseman? Would that help you?
I mean,
I say you've made enough money so far. Hire somebody to hit your fungos. True.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you got $1 billion facility in Florida. I'm sure all of them will be down there.
Yeah, that's one of the things that has happened to baseball in recent years is the fact that players can go down, and I mean with all the with all the equipment they have in the pitching lab and everything like that, you can go down there and you can pretty much work in your own. And the other thing you find now too is there are a lot of guys who work out together in a group in the off season.
Sure.
So back in the day, Spencer Horwitz would be maybe more than Ernie Clement. Spencer Horwitz would be the guy that could benefit from it.
Yeah, listen, when I first went, I didn't want to go. At the end, when I was going, I'd love to go. There's a big difference.
You know what? I will be interested in seeing. I don't know who has Leo Jimenez's winter ball rights. I'd be willing to bet he plays winter ball.
I guess. He might be one of them people.
He's 23.
Again, this is determined on how Bo looks. I mean, I'm sure that's the urgency to try and get Bo back to see if he can play every day, how it looks. Is he 100% healthy? If you were trying to trade for a bat like the caller was mentioning, I mean, Leo's done some things. Offensively, I mean, it looks like he can hold his own. Looks like he's, been here before. And defensively, you okay with the ball being hit to him?
Yeah, he's made
left and right, up and back, like he's okay, and he's got a strong enough arm to throw flat-footed from the outfield. That's good for him.
Dan Schulman made an interesting point during the telecast yesterday. The error that Leo Jimenez made.
Yeah.
I was stunned.
That's fair.
And he was saying the same thing. We were shocked when it happened. That's an indication of the impression he has already made on you, right? That you look at that, you go, wow. Didn't see that coming.
There is some big unknowns with Bo, though. I mean, you have no idea. Are they going to trade him? What's the relationship like? You have no idea. So, you may need a guy like him to stick around and be really good. I don't
absolutely.
Yeah, I don't know how players feel about winter ball anymore. Obviously, people that live there, they will go no matter what.
There's almost an obligation to go in some cases with those guys, isn't there?
Yeah, when I first went, the very first time I went, the Brewers made me go. They said you're going.
Well, teams used to that. I mean, the Montreal Expos used to make guys go.
I was terrified. Yeah. I went to Venezuela. I was terrified. It made me a man in a second. Yeah. Boy, I mean, it was, you don't walk out there in the daylight. Never mind the dark.
Yeah.
And that make you a man in a hurry. So, and then I couldn't wait to go back.
Yeah.
I didn't go back there, but I couldn't wait to go back to winter ball. Game's changed. Like, it's totally different. And if I had $1 billion facility and I was a dude that was established and had a job the next year in the big leagues, I wouldn't be going either.
Yeah, I mean,
no way.
You made money going down to play winter ball.
You do, absolutely. You make money, but it just became.
No, but I mean, you made
part
money
of my
going
year.
Down.
It was part of my year to, Moisés Alou was part of the family, and he called. I come. That's it. I'm coming. See, bud, don't send me a ticket. Yeah, it'd be first class, but send me a ticket.
I did want to talk a little bit about Spencer Horwitz before we break. You talked about as long as this organization doesn't get cute and think that they've found their cleanup hitter.
Boy, I was watching that, and Dan talking about them 10-pitch at bats.
I know, and you,
man,
the thing with the anchors or the weights or whatever the hell it was.
Khakis are sitting there going, boy, we
can build a better Spencer Horwitz.
Boy, that's good protection right there. We can save so much money.
Yeah. Is that power sustainable?
Yeah, I don't think he. I don't.
I'll put it this way. Could we? This is Spencer Horwitz. Let's say he makes the team next year.
Yeah.
And
40
and
doubles.
plays every day. That's what I was.
40 doubles.
Yeah.
If he had 15 homers, 40 doubles of 15 homers, and hit 260 and drove in 65 runs, that's a heck of a season.
Yeah.
Like just the way he sets his arm and, he's got a little Griffey in him where he's got the elbow up. That's not the easiest thing to do because, you lose a lot of fluidity with just what's trying to take place with your arms and your elbows, right? You need a little sort of movement there, but that's a movement that he sort of
just screams doubles, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. It's just because of velocity, because he's, you have to make adjustments. And how do you beat the guy to the spot? And how do you give yourself a chance? And how do you give yourself a chance against a left-handed pitcher like that dude who's throwing 97? That thing getting on him in a hurry. Mm-hmm. He's letting that travel a little bit, just throw the barrel at it with 2 strikes just to put it in play, to fight it off, to maybe get a hanger so he could do something with it. And that's allowed because of that one little movement that he eliminated by where he sets his hands. Yeah, I don't think you overthink it with him. I think he's done enough, those tough outs, that I don't think the numbers are a big deal for him. That's what I said. Just pray, if you're a Jays fan, that they ain't sitting in that front office going, boy, we found it. I mean,
we don't need Pete Alonso.
Man, we have Santander. Who? Jeff, you was thinking it too.
What?
You was thinking it too.
Oh, I'm thinking the same thing.
Oh, yeah. The Varsho Horowitz. Man. Jeff, we seen it. I mean, just think about all you got to say right here. This is the only stat we're going to go to break this with. And Jamie said the 8 home runs last night whenever I was listening to Blue Jay Central because I knew I was going to come in here and talk to you, and I want to rhyme the stat off to you. 8 home runs from the cleanup spot. How many years have I been saying they don't have a cleanup hitter? 8. Now, let me say that out loud. 8 home runs. You are a lineup in the American League East.
You know how many different cleanup hitters they've had?
13.
Yep.
You know that they have 2 different players that have 16 RBIs apiece out of the 13. So that means that the most RBIs from one player in the cleanup spot is 16, and one of those has been traded in Turner, and the other one's hurt, who's hopefully coming back soon to play shortstop. That's the problem, right? It's a big problem.
I've got some really good news for people.
Let's hear it.
It's going to make your day. Monday the Jays are playing the Red Sox in a doubleheader. The first game is a continuation of a game that was suspended in the second inning. Alex Cora, this from me and Brown of MLB.
Oh, he's doing
it. Alex Cora said today that Danny Jansen will catch the continuation of the suspended game on Monday against the Jays, which will make Danny Jansen the first player in MLB history to appear in one game for both teams. He was due up when the game was canceled. He was with the Blue Jays then. He was the Blue Jays catcher. So now in the box score, and I just know that someplace, that's Jason Stark. Someplace Jason Stark is beside himself. So Danny Jansen will catch the first game of that on Monday. He will make history, the first player in MLB history to appear in one game for both teams. And it's funny because I was just doing a little bit of reading on this. Alex Cora does admit that he received so many calls, texts, and questions from media members that he decided to come out today and make this announcement.
Yeah.
So people will please stop calling him and texting him.
Good for him.
There you go.
Yeah, he's a baseball man. Good for him.
It is.
Yeah, that's why you give him the big bucks, Jeff.
That'll be fun.
It will be. It's just another topic of
think
baseball.
These guys would have done it, or would they have
I
had?
hope so. Don't be mean.
Would they have had to look at bat path and?
I think John Schneider would have done it. That's what I think.
He would have. Yes.
Yeah.
Think he would have had to fight people to do it?
I think there would have been some development.
There might have been some. Yeah. They got Brian Servin. He might need to get a certain number of at bat. Anyhow, we're going to take a break, come back, and hear from the manager of the Blue Jays, John Schneider. It is Blair and Barker. Reunited, and it feels kind of like it always feels. On Sportsnet 590, The Fan, and Sportsnet. 7:07 will be the first pitch tonight as the Jays and Los Angeles Angels resume their series. The Jays 5-3 winners last night. Up doing Blue Jays talk following the game tonight. Barker doesn't want to. So. I don't know why you're laughing like that. What? I mean, I just finished saying that they were a more exciting team.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Now you're. Anyhow, Blue Jays talk following it. What?
Think of me when you're on.
Oh, I'll think of you. All right.
Yeah.
You know you'll be in the front of my mind. Oh, yeah. Oh, I'll be thinking of you.
You going to the field?
Undetermined. Probably not. Probably.
Well,
not
the food's there. It's good. So you should go there. It's
Steve
cheap
does
too.
good
I know
stuff.
you're a very cheap person.
No, it's just a getting down. There's a colossal pain in the ass.
It is, and something's wrong with the subway now. I mean, of course. It's like couldn't take the train in today.
You didn't?
No, something.
Oh yeah, because of the.
Yeah. See,
but I mean that shouldn't affect your line.
Yeah.
Derek Brandeo said he should get a. What did you say? Get a scooter?
Yeah, no chance.
Like Derek does.
There's no chance.
Derek with his little helmet. You see, we caught him. By the way, this is our technical director, Derek Brandeo. We caught him the other day. Remember walking across the street?
Yeah.
Derek zipping in the middle of traffic. He was that guy, right?
Yeah.
He's that guy that if you're in a car, you're going, man, if I was just given one free shot, that would be the guy I'd. Anyhow,
no way you catch me on one of those.
No,
not a
chance in hell.
I'd pay to see you on it. I'd pay you. I would seriously give $3 American to watch you on that.
I've driven a motorcycle before. I've driven motorcycles. I would not do a scooter, like those little. I mean, I wouldn't want to do a motorcycle in this. I've driven a motorcycle before.
I don't believe you.
I have.
Where?
Out in the country when I was growing up. And you know what? That was back before helmets were mandatory.
Did you have to pull it to start it?
No. You're such an ass. John Schneider's manager of the Toronto Blue Jays. It is Friday. That means that we get to talk to John, and this was our.
Boy,
I didn't miss you at all.
Man.
This was our interview with the skipper, John Schneider, today. Very pleased to be joined by the manager of the Toronto Blue Jays, John Schneider. So, John, if I had a buck for every time that somebody in your dugout looked at Ernie Clement's home run last night, how much money would I have?
26 plus whoever else was in there. I mean, it's like, yeah, that was never seen something like that before. I think we were all kind of, there were some funny lines. There were some curse words thrown around. Yeah, just a really, really unique pitch to hit out yesterday. Never seen anything like that before.
John, how's he able to do that? Like, what allows him to be able to get to all those different quadrants with his barrel?
I mean, it's kind of the blessing and the curse with all that contact at times. I think just going back to last year, the term adjustability gets thrown around so much in today's game with hitters, and Ernie's done a good job of being able to do that with his barrel. And I think you look at, the homer he hit off of Webb in San Francisco, that was basically on the ground, and then the one last night, it's pretty unique to be able to cover that range of stuff. So it's really good hand-eye, and, him being pretty adjustable with the barrel. Stuff like last night doesn't happen very often, though. But I think what's made him pretty good and fairly consistent is that he can have some adjustability with his barrel.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's sort of change gears and go in the outfield with Joey Loperfido. What have you seen from him, and what have you noticed that's allowed him to have a little bit more success the last week?
I think just being a little bit more stable with his move forward. I mean, we saw him in Houston, and I think, the things that he was working on there are very similar to the ones that he's working on here. We didn't want to overload him at first, but he's been working his tail off with the hitting group of trying to just be a little bit more stable and allow his athleticism to come out in the box. And I think what it does is he's getting to the high fastball a little bit better, and he's not chasing as much down just because he's putting the brakes on. It's hard when it's kind of two moving objects coming at once. It's like a train crash. So I think being able to kind of stop, once he strides and having some more stability in his legs has been his focus. And, it's kind of happening day after day. The results have been good, definitely, in the last week or so. And his work has been just as good.
John, your team in general has put up some really impressive offensive numbers recently. I mean, you can go back and it's among major league leaders in several categories going back a couple of weeks now. How do you know what's real and what isn't? And how, going down the stretch here, how are you going to be able to tell what's real and what isn't?
I think if they continue to do it, there's a lot of young guys, obviously, and I think one of the things we've tried to do is to get them to be a little bit more vocal with their prep in the meetings with who we're facing, and I think it's freed them up a little bit, to kind of really be convicted to an approach, and I think just seeing if it's real. I mean, they got to continue to do it. It can't be for a week, 2 weeks. You're looking at the rest of the season here, a month plus. They got to continue to put the work in, and they got to continue to, have the intent with the swings that they're having. Obviously, Vladdy doing what he's doing has kind of carried us a little bit, but, Spence tapping into some power, Leo tapping into some power. Georgie helps, obviously, and Varsh, too. But I think they got to, the young guys especially, you got to keep doing it and see where you're at when the season's over.
Okay, you mentioned Dalton. Dalton's reached base 20 straight games. Again, I think sticking him in front of the big boy. Is that really a thing, John? Like, have you noticed that maybe he's getting more fastballs and fastball counts? Like, I would think Dalton's one of those guys that sort of needs to, I don't want to say know what's coming, but have a pretty good idea, pitch to pitch of what, he needs to be able to lay off of. What are you seeing from him, and does that really help hitting in front of the big boy?
Yeah, I mean, try to, throw him in between George and Vlad and see if he can get some more pitches to hit and just have some more pitches be in the zone. I think it definitely helps when you look over and you see Vladdy on deck and you're saying, okay, I want to be in the zone here. And Varsh has done a really good job of staying pretty convicted with what he can handle. I think the biggest thing, he's getting his hits. He's taking his walks. I think that's the biggest thing, part of this on-base streak here for him. He's taking his walks, and it kind of just gets a little bit contagious. But it was definitely, a thought, that I had saying, okay, how can we optimize pitches that are going to be in the zone for Varsh? No one better to put him in front of than 2-7.
Okay, we mentioned Joey Loperfido is going to get some at bats in left field. You mentioned we've talked about the two second basemen, Wagner and Horowitz. That's sort of a battle there with Divish Schneider. If you're not performing and you need to get some at bats for those other guys, the question will be asked: what do you do with Davis, John?
Yeah, I mean, we still want to. He's been the thing with Schneider. He's been good at this level. We know that, and I think where he's at right now, we've been very transparent with him. I think days that he's not in there, it's continuing to work on the things that made him good at the beginning of this year and last year. And I think that at times as you get into the league and get a little bit more comfortable, you can kind of veer away from the things that make you really, really good. And, you hit stretches like this. So you got to put him in spots to hopefully have success. And you got to kind of keep trusting the guy. Him and Joey, I think the work that they do every day, it's happened to translate for Joey in the past week or 10 days. And it hasn't for Schneider, and not nothing against him. The work that he was doing last year, it was translating, So I think when you're in a stretch like this, you got to just really take it one at bat at a time, one pitch at a time, and not let things snowball more than they have to. And it's been frustrating for him for sure. But, there's definitely opportunities to still get him in, when the situation does arise.
John, with his increased workload, it really has seemed as if Alejandro Kirk has become pretty consistent, both in terms of his work behind the plate speaks for itself, but also at the plate. He looks different. He looks more comfortable.
Quicker.
Absolutely. Everywhere. He looks quicker. He looks quicker.
Yeah, he's been really good. I think that it's pretty cool. You trade Jano, and he's been, time sharing it for the past couple of years, and realizing that this is an opportunity to say, okay, I can do this, on a pretty consistent basis. So he's taken advantage of it. He's taken care of himself, and he's he's I think when you have more consistent at bats, when you're a hitter of his caliber, it only helps you. So it has been really nice, over the past 30 games or so. He's really kind of looked like himself and what we've been used to seeing. So the consistency definitely helps. And I think him understanding, okay, this is a really big opportunity for me here. The last couple months of the season, let me, take care of myself and continue to keep making progress forward. He's done a great job.
John, we're seeing a lot of Vladdy at third. What's the thinking behind that?
I think really, trying to just get him some reps there. There's no decision made, going into the future if he's going to be at third or at first. It's something that he enjoys. And I think the more, consistent we can be with it, you can get a real kind of gauge on where he is in his all-around game defensively. So I think just getting him there consistently, it allows us to kind of shape some decisions going into the offseason a little bit. But trying to get him there, back-to-back days so he gets in a little bit of rhythm rather than just do it a day here or a day there. I mean, he's still going to play first too, but down the stretch, we would like to increase that number of games at third a little bit and to try to see, what it looks like. Again, no decision has been made, for him and his future. The fact that he's open to it is great. He loves playing over there. So we'll kind of just continue to see how it looks down the stretch.
Yeah, I was going to ask that question because, John, he is trying to get paid, and I would think that number's going to be super, super big. Has it been hard to get him to buy into, okay, you're going to play first this amount of days, you'll play third this amount of days, you'll DH this amount of days? I mean, that's a lot. It's a different sort of kind of routine. He's okay with that?
He is, man. He's been, he's so unique to, and again, I've known him for a long, long time. He's the same guy every single day. He genuinely enjoys going out and playing, whether it's at first, third, DH. He's told me he wants to play a game in the outfield. He genuinely enjoys playing every single day. But on that note, I think I can't say enough good things about him, George, Barsh, Kirky, kind of guys that have been here with their attitude, their prep, their effort, their performance in a transitional phase, after the trade deadline when you get some young dudes up here. So Vladdy has been unbelievably positive, energetic, and willing to do anything because he just loves the game. So I can't say enough good things about, him and George especially, how they've kind of, taken this group under their wing a little bit and setting a really good example.
John, I'm wondering when realistically we can expect Bo Bichette back and what that might do to Leo Jimenez's playing time.
Yeah, sure. Bo's making good progress. He's going to meet us up on the road in Boston when we get there on Monday or Tuesday, and then continue to ramp up with us there, and then get out hopefully a week from now or on the weekend and get into some AAA games. I think when he gets back, you pencil him in at short. That's part of the reason we're shuffling Leo at second a little bit. Leo's handled himself really, really well and has, I think, a ton of upside for a young guy. So I think you can see Leo at second base. You can see him at short at Bo's DHing. But really, really, positive steps for Bo in the last week or 10 days. We're anxious to get him back and get him playing again. And I think Leo just kind of slides over to second, where he's also been really good.
John, when can we expect Jake Bloss up here?
Not sure. We're obviously monitoring his innings, and we really like what we've seen so far. And I don't have an exact timeline. I do think he'll be up here at some point, making some starts, just to kind of, we want to see him, we want to get to know him. Kind of get, Pete working with him a little bit. It depends on, where we are on the schedule, when he's set to throw, as long as he's feeling good physically and performing well. There's no set timeline, but I think it's pretty safe that he should be up here at some point.
John, how much fun's this been? You got a bunch of young kids up here. They're hungry, right? Them, the hungry dog runs faster. That old saying is, right? I mean, how much fun's this been for you? And sort of how's your job changed? I would think, the teaching might have went up a little bit just because all the young kids, the positioning and trying to get like the Loperfitos and the Wagners sort of just, ground, hit it, running, often doing the things that they're supposed to be doing. How's it been for you?
Yeah, it's been cool. It's definitely been different than what we've all been, a little bit accustomed to the last couple of years here. But we're trying to win every single night, obviously. But it's been fun. I think the one thing that we all talk about, as a staff every day, is just the word assume is kind of out the window. You don't assume anything, and when there's moments to be learned from, you have to learn from them. And it has shifted, kind of our day-to-day a little bit in our meetings and talking through things, whether it's good or bad, and how do you learn and how do you get better from it. And that's been cool. I think the staff has done an unbelievable job of doing the same. And, again, it's something that we talk about, on a daily basis with a lot of these young guys. So between everyone on the staff and the veteran guys really understanding that it's kind of their time to pay it forward to the game a little bit like they've had done for them, it's been fun. There's definitely times where you kind of scratch your head or you get a little bit perplexed or mad day to day. But the main thing is making sure people are aware of it. You learn from it, and it's been cool to see guys make progress, whether it's guys on the field in the box or on the mound. So it's definitely a shift, but I can't speak highly enough of the veterans and how the staff has really kind of handled it.
John, really good of you to join us today, as always. We appreciate your time. Go get him tonight. Thanks, man.
Thanks, buddy.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, always good catching up with you. Thanks.
Yeah. Take care. So there you go. John Schneider, manager of the Toronto Blue Jays. Never assume anything.
Yeah, it's odd. It's an odd phrase.
No, it's perfect. I mean, you're going to have. It makes perfect sense to me. You're bringing guys up from AAA. Just guys are trying to find their way. Never assume anything. Be prepared for somebody to do something stupid. Of course. I get it completely.
Other than Leo, most of them dudes are a little older. Like, them dudes been around long.
Yes,
to have a little bit better IQ and
true.
Not to run themselves into outs and look like they never ran before or picked up a baseball bat. Like, it's this is the big leagues. This is not the development league. I mean, I know the Blue Jays, the organization as a whole at the big league level, that's why the front office came out and said we believe in the coaching staff. Every once in a while when you're trying to go for it, sometimes it's better just to coach just out of the way. And I would think
the tri-league.
Oh boy, that's never been said better in my entire life. That's kind of where I think they're at as an organization, and they're in that sort of hard to hear stage, and I think they need to get past that and sort of get some players in here that don't need to be taught how to play at the big league level. That's right.
But I mean, right now, I mean, obviously, but right now, this is the hand that John Schneider's been dealt, and it has always, one of the running storylines in baseball has always been, right? Don't trust what you see in the first month of the season. Don't trust what you see in the last month of the season. And I kind of wonder what's fool's gold and what's real. And I guess, I'm sure there's analytic, there's ways of measuring what guys are doing that we don't know about, that the organization has. But I've often wondered about that.
Yeah, I think you got to be realistic with some guys, right? I think what you see is what you see.
And I think what John made the point. Well, if they continue it, then
I think
that's a start.
I think David Schneider's one of those guys. Like, how much longer is the rope going to be? Like, hey, is he getting towards the end of it, or are they going to keep allowing him to go out there and, quite frankly, look like a minor leaguer right now? And that's what he looks like, right? This has been a real big sample size of being non-competitive.
And here's the thing: if he is not going to go out and absolutely murder left-handed pitching, then I'll go with the left-handed hitter.
Yeah, they're
him.
One of the worst hitting teams against left-handed pitching in baseball. Like, they need those guys, right? That are not going to play every day, but when they see lefties, it is get it down, get it singing, and having that one-way ticket. So, I think you can hear sometimes when we ask John these questions about they've been trying to develop some certain guys and try and win at the same time, and that's not fair for a coaching staff. It's just not. Pete Walker's one of those. Like, every time it is, give him to Petey, he'll figure. It's not always Petey's job to do this, right?
Let's say this now. Pete's got 3 veteran starting pitcher. He hasn't had to reinvent.
They're getting at that old stage. When you get a little older, you got to reinvent yourself. Every one of them dudes is trying to figure something out. I mean, Bassett's trying to figure out a different routine. Barrios is trying to figure out different mechanics. Gosman's trying to figure out adding new pitches. Like, That's a lot on somebody's plate. Now you're asking him to fix Yariel Rodriguez, who didn't pitch an entire season, and you need him around and ready to go for next year. It's just a lot. I know they pay these dudes a lot of money to try and help figure it out. At the big leagues, I don't think it's always about that. At the big leagues, it's more you tweak. You don't rebuild. And a lot of these guys, especially with the lineup, they tried to do that. That's what I said. Get 4 dudes at the top of your lineup, and then the other 5 dudes, you do what you want.
Let me ask you this. Let me ask you this. Because you asked John about this. Percentage chance that Vladdy is your opening day third baseman next year.
Oh, man.
I'm going to say 80.
If it's Pete Alonso playing first, I'm okay with it.
I'm going to say 80%.
If it's Christian
chance.
Walker, I'm going to be chapped, and I'm going to be yelling and screaming about something. How about that? But there is a little funny correlation between what Bassett said when he said, if I were Vladdy and I wanted to make Devers money, can't make Devers money playing first because they just don't do that. But I can make Devers money if I'm playing third. They've obviously had conversations when they've been tapping drinks on the plane, saying if I were you, I'd go to coach and say, hey, coach, we're out of this thing. How about you playing me a third a little bit more so I can show everybody I know how to do it over there.
Yeah,
I mean, it's funny how he answered the question.
It's certainly not going to hurt Vladdy's value.
You tell me it sounded almost like he's going to play more third than first.
I got that impression completely.
I did too, and I just don't know how I feel about that. They better fill in the blank, and it better not be Horwitz.
But I am going to.
How about that?
Yeah, here's the thing, though, and I made this point last week because I like leaving Vladdy. If I'm Vladdy, I'm staying at first. That's just me. I mean, if you're not going to give me a long-term contract, screw you. I'm going to stay at first.
That's fair.
But I also know Vladdy's thinking. Vladdy can read the salary list, right? And Vladdy can go, hang on now. There are a bunch of guys making more money playing third base than there are a bunch of guys making more money playing first base. And I may be an outlier because I'm younger than them, And if Vladdy, I got to remember this, right?
Yeah.
Again, it gets back to Alex Anthopoulos. What position do you want to play? I want to play third base. So, if he's okay with it, and it's pretty clear that they're not dragging him over there, if he's okay with it, then I'm fine with it as well. But I am with you.
Yeah,
I am with you. I need to have at least 2 new thumpers next year.
Absolutely.
And if I can't get a guy to play third base and thump, but I can get a guy to play first base and thump, then I'm okay with having Vladdy at third base. But, do not have Vladdy at third base and go with, a combination of Spencer Horwitz and some 95-year-old right-handed hitter at first base.
I got to figure out how to score.
Don't bring Justin Turner back.
So I got to figure out how to score almost 5 runs a game. It can't be 3.5. It's 3.5. You're going to be in 4th or 5th place. You're not going to be in it. They're going to be selling off and firing everybody. Like, you got to bring 2 dudes in here. And I know Vladdy's got his ear to everything. I know he heard Passan saying that you can't make $300 million standing first.
Passan kind of walked it back a bit, though. No,
he didn't.
He said he didn't.
No, he didn't. I mean, he tried to be because he was on our show when he did that. He tried to say what he said about Vladdy. It's not that Vladdy's not going to make his money. He's going to make it regardless. I think somebody in his little circle basically called him an idiot for saying what he said. That generational players who are at that age don't come around every day and they're going to make their money. He's just stating facts that it don't happen the position he plays.
No, it's a lot easier. It's a lot easier to make more money.
And Vladdy's hearing that. So if I'm Vladdy, why would I care about what the Blue Jays do now? They haven't cared about me. Why would I care about them, Jeff?
How? Jake Bloss. He was acquired from the Houston Astros at the trade deadline. He's a pitcher with the Buffalo Bisons. When will we see him? Will we see him this year? What are his impressions of the organization? We'll ask him next. It's Blair and Barker on Sportsnet 590 The Fan and Sportsnet. Blair and Barker for a Friday. Band is back together.
Yeah, how about that? I'll almost rather be painting, Jeff.
How'd your painting go?
Well,
Reunited and it feels so good.
Was that you?
No. No, that was not me.
No?
7:07 is the first pitch tonight.
The paint's hard, boy.
Painting is hard. Yeah, that's all you did. You were.
I was chapped.
Well, yeah. I mean, I thought you guys would go someplace.
Wife's laughing at me.
Then I get sent pictures of you painting.
Yeah.
Torch.
Yeah. Stay hot.
Yeah.
I mean, I got thrown right in it. I'll never take off again. That's a fact. That's a fact.
You were watching paint dry, and I was watching the Blue Jays.
Oh, it was fun though.
I know.
How about it? They've changed. Losing's fun now.
I can't.
Losing's fun.
I know. I mean, I really wanted to use that line, even though, and it's just not fair because they're fun to watch. But I'm still going to use it anyhow.
They're a little bit more fun.
They're fun to watch.
They're hitting homers.
Yeah.
That's the only thing that's fun.
Well, and you know what? Hey, guys are playing for jobs, man. Go get them. That's the way I look at it. You're playing for a job next year.
Well, some are.
Go get them.
Couple of them are.
Well, I think
Where's Will Wagner? Where's he fit in?
I mean, it's. I'll tell you what. It's good to be able to have that discussion.
Well, I wish he played short, because if he played short, then you'd have a spot for him. And the stuff he does left-handed, he just doesn't have a lot of power. Well, that's the thing that sort of separates him and Horowitz.
Yeah, but
Horowitz is tapped into it. Will's not yet.
Yeah, but you also, that's fair. But you also have to, I think part of this is, and we haven't even seen Jonathan Clase, who was the guy that was supposedly closer to the.
I think.
But some of these guys are going to be traded in the offseason as, because the Jays have got a lot to do. I mean, they still got a lot to do, and it's not all going to be. They're not going to be able to do everything by free agency. They basically got to overhaul the bullpen. We've talked about the catching situation, so I think a couple of these guys be traded. And now, me personally, I think Joey Loperfido is going to be in the team next year as a fourth outfielder, maybe a starting outfielder if he can get it going. Again, though, and this is Will Wagner as well. Left-handed bats. I'm going to give these guys.
Yeah, they hadn't had a lot. Lately.
I'm going to give them a lot of rope.
Now you got some. It's just, can any of them play every day and hit lefties? That's the thing you got to ask yourself. Horowitz looks like he can, and there's everybody else. Yeah. I mean, I think Will can too, but can Will hit a double in left center field gap with the bases loaded against the lefty? That's the thing you got to ask yourself. The answer is then you got to make some realistic, answers and outcomes to what you're trying to do and make them quicker. Like, you can't let it fester and try and figure. I'm not saying Will can't be a part of your team.
I know what you're saying.
But you know what I'm saying, right? You can't have them all.
No.
If you want to hit the ground running and try and, the goal is to win the East. It's not make the playoffs.
Maybe there's a way forward where, your second base, you've got some sort of platoon of Will or Leo Jimenez or something. I mean, there's all sorts of, that depends what you're going to do with Spencer Horowitz. I mean, they're all sorts of moving parts. If the Jays go out and sign 2 left-handed free agent thumpers, well, then you've got less of a need for left-handed guys on the bench. But just having these options is good. Having these options is
they
good.
look like they've been here before. I mean, they look like big leaguers. I just you can't have them all. That's the thing, right? So
what I also like though too is, and we spent all this time kind of laughing about run prevention, but I like the fact that they all look like they're not afraid to have the ball hit to them.
Yeah, but your weakness is hitting the homers.
Yeah, it is.
Right, that's what you sort of
But
need
I'm
to fill in
okay.
the blanks with.
I'm not running out a team full of guys that are hitting but aren't catching the ball. And that's, again, just the sense of watching these guys play that they don't seem overmatched. And I feel the other thing I really, and John talked about this, and I really noticed this, and I'm not a big believer in the whole happy dugout thing and all that stuff. I mean, but I will say this, there's a little more energy in that dugout right now than there has been.
They're hitting homers.
But that's good.
George is hitting some homers. Vladdy's doing his thing.
Correct.
Some of the youngins are doing their thing.
But that's good.
Yeah, well, homers make you happy.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah.
And I think that is that's coming through a little bit. It's coming through a little bit on the field.
Yeah, and I think that should, if you're paying attention and you're one of the people that are making the call on how you're trying to win and hit the ground running, it's hitting the 3-run homer. And the more you do that, that means the less you have to do with, say, some bullpen arms, right? You can fill in the blanks of what you've got already. If you bring in a couple of thumpers who can hit a bunch of 3-run homers and sort of hide the fact that you don't have a complete pin or, your fifth starter's in flux, whatever that is, it can hide a weakness. So hopefully to do that. And
I've also got to say this. I didn't talk about this last night. It was actually kind of fun watching Ryan Yarbrough do to somebody else what he used to do to the Blue Jays all the time.
He's a headache. He really is.
He would be a pain to hit against.
Well, it's his arm slot, and just I think you think it's getting there as quicker than it actually is, and it's not. It's frustrating.
Well, we've talked about the number of jobs that are open for 2025 in the Blue Jays. We know that there's we've talked about this. It's an endless stream of dudes auditioning for jobs in this team. And we fully expect that we will see our next guest up here at some point as well. So. Hopefully sooner as opposed to later. He is Jake Bloss. Jake, thanks so much for joining Blair and Barker today. As we appreciate your time. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the organization. We haven't had a chance to talk to you since the trade. How you settling in?
Yeah, nice to meet you all. I appreciate you having me on. Settling in well. Had a couple weeks now, but everything's been pretty seamless. I appreciate it.
Jake, what was the hardest thing? Like when you got the call you were being traded, who did you call first? What was the hardest thing to get over, that little hurdle? I've been traded before. It wasn't the easiest thing. I walked across the street when I was traded. I got traded in spring training in Arizona, and it was across the street. It wasn't the hardest of moves. But what you did wasn't the easiest of things. What was the hardest thing? What did you go through? How hard was that?
It wasn't. I mean, like I said, everybody handled it as well as you can handle it, so it's pretty seamless. I mean, you are going from Texas to Toronto, so it's a little bit of a hoof. So you just kind of got to coordinate all that stuff. The first people I talked to were. I actually had some family that were, because I was supposed to start that game that I got traded, so I had some family there, so I just called them and said, hey, not starting today, by the way. But, I mean, it takes a few days to just pack everything up, but the Blue Jays made it pretty easy, helped me get moved, and we're all squared away now.
Awesome.
Now, when the Blue Jays did acquire you, they said they sent you to Florida, or they let you go to Florida. I think they just kind of wanted to, almost like an introductory thing, and try to get a sense of what you were about, and you get a sense of what the organization was about. What was that like to be put in that situation, after a trade and just kind of, again, a completely new environment and basically a pitching lab, I think would be the way to put it.
So when Ross called me the day of the trade, actually that night, and just said, just coordinate a few things. He said, we're either going to get you to Florida or Toronto. So I ended up going to Toronto, and then they have a pitching lab there. So I got on that thing, did some evals, and just met a few people, like Ross, and they had a training staff there. So just did a couple evals. The team was on the road, but Manoah was there. So got to talk to a few guys, and it was good just to get the feet wet and see the complex and just kind of get comfortable with everything, because they have a nice place up there for sure.
Absolutely. Jake, now that your feet's wet and you've said hi to everybody you need to say hi to, is there something you think you need to work on to be the best Jake you can possibly be?
I mean, I think there's always stuff to work on. I think that's the part of the beauty of the game. You kind of just take it week to week. Everybody has things they do better than other things. So for me lately, it's been working on the changeup, and that's been coming along. And this last game, trying to get a little more depth on the cutter. But, I mean, maybe you plug that hole and then another leak happens. You got to plug that. So it's just keeping on top of everything. But I think they run a good program here, so can have a very productive offseason too, for sure.
Yeah, how do you get past the trust thing? I would think that would be the hardest thing, right? You go from the Astros, who have it going one way, trying to tell you to do it this way, Then you go to a different organization. I'm sure the Blue Jays have it a little different, want you to try and attack in a different way. And I'm sure that would be, it's your career. It's not theirs, it's yours, right? You have to build that trust as soon as you can build it to get to the highest level you want to get to. How hard is that to get past?
Yeah, I mean, every org definitely runs a different operation. But it's kind of, for me, I mean, it's trial and error. So if they tell me to do something and I try it and it's not working or it doesn't feel right or something, then there's no rule that I have to do it. It's more like suggestions that they give, and I'll test them out. But usually if they say things with like confidence and they're like, we have a bunch of data that says if you do this, then this should happen, and you should get more swing and miss on this pitch or something. And they have a bunch of data back in that. Usually I'm like, I might as well give it a try.
Yeah.
Can't hurt. But, yeah, I mean, if someone's just like, hey, you want to try this? Like, it might be good. I'll be like, all right, is there a reason, kind of?
Mm-hmm.
But usually there is.
Yeah.
Hey, when you think of organizations in Major League Baseball that really seem to have it together when it comes to pitching, you think of, Seattle's got good young pitchers. Tampa Bay every year seems to have somebody else. Houston does a terrific job of identifying guys. What's the Astros' secret when it comes to pitching, both to identifying guys and developing them?
I mean, I think they're good at finding diamonds in the rough a lot of the time. Dudes with the foundation to be good pitchers. It's not like they just completely turn them around. They get guys with usually good fastballs, and then they add off speeds in the shape that they want. I mean, if you're a successful college pitcher, you probably have at least two good pitches, and for them, they look at guys that have good fastball with ride usually, and then some kind of slider or changeup, and then they might fiddle with those a little bit and add another pitch. But I think it's just a lot of it's not as much on the development side as people think as it is they're just scouting and finding guys from not powerhouse schools that are just kind of like diamonds in the rough.
Mm-hmm. Jake, you've been really good in your 3 starts in Buffalo over the 9 innings. Why is that?
I mean, would like to be a little better, a little more efficient, eat up some more innings for the bullpen. But, I mean, I think it's just trusting the game plan. Just any other start. I feel like can't take I mean, you still got to stay on every start, because if you start to get too comfortable, then you don't want to lose your edge.
Do you have any chances to pick Joey Votto's brains at all when he was there? Or brain, I should say, when he was there, because he was there for, we know Joey is retired from the game now, but he was there for a while. Did you get a chance to chat with him at all? And what was it like kind of having that guy around?
Yeah, no, that was pretty cool, because, I mean, you grow up watching that guy. He would definitely talk to guys. I mean, he gave a very cool retirement speech, and he was good to have on the team, because it's a guy who's had success in the major leagues for, I don't know, 16, 17 years, whatever it was. Mm-hmm. So you can see, I mean, it's not even just like talking to him, it's just observing. Like, you see he works hard in the weight room. He has a strict routine that he sticks to. And it's kind of just a testament to him that he's already had this long, great career, and he's still doing all these little things.
I know you thought about this. If you ever faced Joey in his prime, how would you get him out?
He's got a pretty good eye, so I think you kind of just got to attack him. You can't get too cute with him and go out of the zone. I think you just got to go heaters in. He was a tough AB.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, you definitely can't expand too much, because you just watch it.
Jake, have the Jays given you any indication as to when you might be with the big club?
No, I'm just taking it day by day. Whatever happens. Hopefully as soon as possible. I mean, be nice to join them, but Buffalo's a cool spot too. So just take it day by day and do what they tell me.
Jake, was really good of you to join us today. Thanks so much. I'm sure we'll see you up here soon.
Hope so.
And stay healthy and keep it going, my friend. Be well.
Thanks, Jake.
Yeah, I appreciate y'all. Nice talking with you.
Take care.
Take care.
Jake Bloss. And, we will see him up here.
Yeah.
I kind of thought they might bring him up for the Boston game.
Yeah.
But, I had a chance to talk to somebody the other day. They are really impressed with him. And it's interesting hearing they, being the Jays, are really impressed with him. And it's interesting to hear somebody tell me, they said he has an idea. Like, you can tell, the Astros pitchers, he has an idea. And I think you kind of got the sense about how the Astros go about suggesting things to pitcher. Like, he was very clear, right? Yeah, it's not just, hey, try this, it might work. It's try this, and this is how we think it'll turn out. I know you talk to people, they say the Astros spend a lot of time talking, and I'm sure other organizations do it now, but the Astros for years have spent a lot of time talking about pitch shape. That's just something they've always talked about, and Captain Obvious. I'm sure everybody is right now, but it's interesting seeing a guy come over from another organization.
I wonder how he goes about when it comes to eating innings. I know that he sounded like that was a big deal to him. You're a starting pitcher. You're in a rotation. You don't want to use as many arms in your starts as possible. You want to go a little deeper. I know I have talked to Pete Walker quite a few times about him. He's watched a lot of video on him, and he says the pinpoint control of the fastball is his strength, and it will be the other secondary pitches of when you throw it, the unpredictability. Strike one's very important because he's not a tremendously hard thrower. Elevating with 2 strikes to a lefty is a big pitch, right? The cutter is a big deal. He can go up and in to a lefty. He can go up and in to a righty. The up and in cutter thing to a righty is a big deal. We see Bassett trying to do that. Hard throwers don't really need to do that.
Yeah.
Guys that don't throw very hard need to do that. And I think hearing it in his voice whenever he was talking about adding the cutter and, respecting it and just trying to finish it, have it end up where he wants it to end up, tinkering enough to that's not going to hinder you from going to the big leagues when you're supposed to go. That's a big deal. Can't be the easiest thing. You're still trying to go to the show. Performance matters. I know a lot of times it don't as much as it used to, but it's still, you want to go and perform. You want to show dudes that I'm dominating. Now, they hear the same things that we tell everybody, that there's never been bigger separation between the minor leagues and the big leagues. Well, Jake should be going down there dominating people. He just quite frankly should. If we talk about him that highly, he should be going down there dominating people. So I think, that's the fine line you're playing is, do I trust you? I still want to perform. I want to dominate you to go to the big league. So it's intriguing to listen to that because he's not a tremendously young guy. I mean, he's been around enough and he's been from a really, really good organization. You could argue the best organization in the American League. So hopefully he can take some of that and add it to what the Blue Jays are telling him and be a really good starter. Just gives them more options. That's the point. Right now, it's, you're seeing some guys taking some step forward at the big league level. You'd like to see this guy do.
Yeah. And, considering the issues this organization has had with its minor league pitching staying healthy, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure out that if Yariel Rodriguez can finish the year strongly, Bowden Francis at least has put himself in a position where you have to give him a shot next year. I mean, if you can have some sort of competition between Rodriguez, Francis, and this guy, understanding that with Rodriguez, you do not have any options next year. But I mean, that's you want competition going into spring training.
Yeah, I think the next start's coming up with these good teams to tell you what you need to know about them.
Well, that's a great point. If you look at and I'm glad you mentioned that because it's something, quite frankly, I forgot I wanted to ask John about. But if you look at the schedule right now, the Jays are finishing off with the Angels. Then you got all those games against Boston coming up. I'm just looking at the rest of the schedule here. Printable schedule. View 2024.
Yeah, you got the Angels, you got
You got-
Boston, you got Minnesota, you got
Yeah.
the Phillies, you got Atlanta, you got the Mets, you got St. Louis,
You got all
Texas, Tampa, Boston, Miami. Like you got some. We're going to find out about the adjustments he's made, the elevated fastball.
I mean,
those kind of
basically,
things.
yeah. You look at it. The Twins,
Yeah.
Phillies, they're fighting for a playoff spot.
Absolutely.
Atlanta's fighting for a playoff spot.
You're going to get their best.
That's their, St. Louis. By the time that rolls around, Texas is kind of, and then Tampa Bay is just ahead of you, and then you finish off with Boston, and then you got Miami. Miami's not fighting for anything, but you'll run the gamut. You'll see you'll get some tough lineups.
Yeah,
and to get some teams that are playing for stuff, and that's. Again, that gets into what we talked to John Schneider about. How do you evaluate? Part of it is how do these guys do against good competition, too?
Yeah, it's one thing to do it, a couple of weeks. It's another thing to do it a month or a month and a half at a time. So that's what I'm intrigued to see, the adjustments Loperfito's made. I don't think they're obvious, eye-popping adjustments. I think it's more between the years than it is. He's just got looks to me like
he's quick.
He's losing confidence. You can tell he's an athlete. That again is they can't teach you that.
Yeah.
They can teach you how to line up your lower half a little bit better, the way your stride foot's going. They can teach you just to be a little bit looser at the plate. They can't teach you how to be more athletic. So he's got that in his little bag of tricks. So I'm intrigued to see this play out. See him hit some home runs against some good teams. Now we're talking, and now that'll be fun to watch, right? Yeah. Even if they do lose a few of those games, at least they're competing and they're hitting homers off some good pitchers.
It's going to be fun seeing those games against Boston. Like that. That's there's going to be something on the line for the Red Sox.
Vladdy's at peak. Vladdy, Devers is trying to do his thing, right? There's always a competition back and forth between them two dudes.
It'll be.
And I don't think the two managers for the Red Sox and the Blue Jays like each other, which is always fun. I just don't think they do. I think it's like the Yankees and the Blue Jays. I don't think they like each other. I think there's a little fun.
I don't know.
I don't think that is. I just don't. I got the feel of.
Really? The Red Sox. I see it with the Yankees.
Like the Tampa Jay. I just don't think I just think the East is. I played in the East. I just don't think they like each other. I think all them teams. I mean, the players. There's certain players like certain players. But the managers, the coaching staffs, I know the coaching staff for the Blue Jays don't like a bunch of them. I know that for a fact.
Yeah, I get the Yankees thing. I never really figured that out about the Red Sox. The whole Yankees thing with Pete Walker going at it with the third base coach last year.
I think it's funny.
What?
I think it's funny.
I think it is too.
Yeah.
I don't really detect anything with the Rays and the Jays with the coaches.
Yeah, I think there
Yankees
could be. I think it's the Jays are trying to figure out how the Rays are doing it with what the Rays are doing it with, and there's a little bit of that.
They hired.
They
hired the Rays. They hired the Rays bench coach to be their manager a couple of years ago. How'd that turn out? I mean, I don't know if Charlie brought any secrets with him, but I don't think there's a secret to what the Rays do. I just think they're really, really good. I think everybody knows what they do. They're just really, really good at it. And you know what? I also think the Rays pay their people. I think they pay their people really, really well and give them a lot of authority and allow them to be creative.
I don't think they have a ton of egos in that room. I think it's very easy. We've heard that Springer thing where, remember when I asked John what basically took you guys so long to make the little hand adjustment where raise the barrel, don't lay it across that's a wasted movement, right? Yeah. He's getting older. Got to beat the guy to the spot. Just give him a chance. Hold it up. John's answer was it's hard to talk a guy into that, right? He's been around forever. I don't think that's so much with the Rays, right? It's basically this dude this ain't working. Don't look right. Fix it.
416-413-3959 is the back leg
Jake
line.
Was good. I like stuff like that.
I like talking to young guys.
I do too.
Absolutely.
Young dudes fighting for spots, man. They're hungry, boy.
We're going to go to the back leg line after we take a break. Ryan Divish covers the Mariners for the Seattle Times.
This is something
Mariners. I think the Mariners fired the wrong guy.
Well, yeah. I mean, the guy woke up, was like, and he looked, I'm fired. What? That's awful, man.
Yeah. The Mariners are a mess. Yeah. Their general manager might have less currency with their fans than this general manager has.
That's a fair point.
With the Jays fans. Like, it could be a neck-and-neck race. You might throw the guy from St. Louis in there, too,
They're the poster child of you got to have it on both sides of the ball.
Yep.
Just can't be a pitching team.
Ryan Divish joins us next. It's Blair and Barker on Sportsnet 590, The Fan and Sportsnet. All right, welcome back to Blair and Barker. You wanted to say something about Joey Votto, Kevin. I know that you weren't here when you weren't here when he retired, and I know you wanted to say something.
Well, I know you're probably tired of saying you said it for an hour yesterday.
Well, it was a big it was a big deal
for an hour.
It was a big deal. Joey Votto retiring is a big deal. I'm sorry. What?
For an hour?
Why not? I had to fill time by myself. If you didn't like it, you could have got your ass in here.
Why do you think I'm here today?
In here and stop painting and come in.
No, you had me until you said he's a first ballot Hall of Famer. And I'm not saying he's not a Hall of Famer because he absolutely is.
What do you?
But the separator from a Hall of Famer is a first ballot Hall of Famer, dude. And them dudes walk on different air, man.
Let me
different air.
What was one of the things John Gibbons told you? That you said
I lived on the other side of the mountain.
Yeah, he did say that. That you've always kept, that you've carried close to your heart. You said, Gibby, why did you do that? It was a certain move, and John said, Kevin, sometimes I do things so I don't have to answer the question.
Oh.
Kevin, sometimes I say things and do things so I don't have to answer the question. And
so you knew I'd say it because you knew I'd hear it.
Yeah.
And you knew I don't care. I'd say it. So
as one of listen. Whether or not I think Joey Votto is a first ballot,
just let me finish. Hall of Famer.
Let me finish.
But you tooted that for an hour yesterday.
Whether or not he's a first ballot Hall of Famer, whether or not I believe he's a first ballot Hall of Famer, I'm going to vote for him in the first ballot just so I don't have to answer the question. As one of 15 Canadian Hall of Fame voters, I admit it.
He deserves to get in. But when you're a first ballot Hall of Famer, the air that you breathe is different than everybody else. And
all right,
I just don't look at Joey that way. I look at Joey as a complete 100% Hall of Famer, just not a first ballot.
I mean, you've had your chance.
You needed me to say it because you knew I would.
I know you would. Let's bring in Ryan Divish. He covers the Seattle Mariners for the Seattle Times. Ryan, thank you very much for joining us. Sorry you had to listen to that. Hey,
I mean, I've heard that in the press box before, so it's like it's not like
Yeah, I know.
There you go.
And Jeff getting into it, all that stuff. So
he does. He does that all the time to me. He does it on purpose. Hey,
this is what happens, man, when you cover a team that's out of it in August. Stuff you talk about.
To me, though, the debate of first ballot and stuff, it's gone. The whole thing that rarefied air is gone.
Wow.
Because Griffey wasn't unanimous. Because a couple of guys decided Griffey wasn't unanimous, and that's just stupid.
I mean, it was.
So, it's beyond reproach. So, I did that.
The other stories, Mike Schmidt, right? Mike Schmidt missed being a unanimous Hall of Famer by one vote. It was a Philly writer who didn't like him.
That's a fair point, Ryan.
So,
absolutely.
I mean, honestly, either they are or they aren't. For me, sometimes it's sometimes I can be convinced, later on doing more research. Not that I don't do a ton already, but I can be convinced of it. But there's for me, I'll vote for Felix Hernandez as a Hall of Famer at least once. He won't get in. He probably won't even stay on the ballot. But he had Hall of Fame about 5 or 6 years, and I understand how bad this organization is and what they did to him in terms of failing to put something around him. So I'll vote for him. But when it comes down to the real ballot of brass tacks, I don't care if they're first ballot or not. That whole thing, that kind of mindset changed with the voting process and stuff years and years ago. Because look, we got guys in there that are on steroids, that have been on steroids.
Yep.
And so it's I've changed it all.
Yeah.
Hey, did the right guy get fired in Seattle?
Wow. Right to it.
I mean, you could argue probably not. In some level. Scott Servais doesn't get to pick the groceries. He just asked to make chicken salad out of some stuff. And part of it is these guys, they don't, you look at the roster and what they've done in the off season. I've been on you guys' program talking about how they won't spend money and everything else. We were doing this exercise, but you look at the Mariners roster the Mariners lineup that they're going to throw out today. 3 players would be on good teams, would start for good teams. Cal Raleigh, Julio Rodriguez, and Randy Arozarena. The rest would all be bench or role players. Some of them would be good enough to be on the team. That speaks to it. I mean, like, that's just not enough. You know, this isn't like when Lou Piniella had 3 future Hall of Famers in his lineup, you know, or the talent level. They have loft, as my college baseball coach told me. He goes, "You have loft issues." And I was, what does that mean? He goes, "Lack of freaking talent." And I'm like, "Oh, thanks, coach." And he didn't say freaking when he said it either.
I like that. I'm actually going to use that. I won't credit you, but you'll know if you hear
Brian,
it.
do you think this is it? Like, is this all they're going to get rid of, or is this sort of a retool? I guess this would be called a retool. You do the front office, you do some coaches. Is that the problem? That'll be fixed, and hopefully they have a bounce back season next year offensively.
I don't know. I mean, like, honestly, like, I figured that if Scott and Jerry didn't make the playoffs this year, if Jerry DePoto, the president of baseball operations, and Scott Servais didn't make the postseason this year, that they would be let go. They're in the final year of their contract. They have option years for next year. And even talking to Scott Servais today privately, he said the same thing, that he figured if they didn't make the postseason, he'd be done. He didn't think that he'd be done with 34 games left. But the management or the ownership structure here is a little, I'm trying to think of the word, freaked up, I guess. You know, like, they have multiple owners in a group. And, you know, the chairman and CEO who actually appears and talks to us isn't the lead owner in terms of most revenue or most ownership shares. Right. So it's a guy named Chris Larson, who Microsoft guy, but I've been told has the people skills of a mob boss, so they don't ever put him out there. So everything I've been kind of told is this was kind of an ownership, hey, we need to make a change. And if you want to even hope of sticking around next year, they told Jerry DePoto to make a change. So I don't know. I don't know if Jerry DePoto will be back. Like, you can't argue with what he's done in terms of building a starting rotation, really a pitching staff. I mean, this year the bullpen's been a little down, but, like, going out and getting those 5 starters, getting Andres Munoz in a trade, the draft, the prospects, retooling the farm system, all that stuff, like increasing the talent level throughout the organization. But you can look at his inability to put together a big league roster and wonder whether or not that plays. I mean, you guys know Pat Gillick could put together a big league roster. Yeah. He was here. He was there. He could put together a big league roster. Dave Dombrowski could put together a big league roster. Those guys could also kill your farm system really quickly.
Yep.
But that's the question, whether or not Jerry DePoto can put together a big league roster, take advantage of this pitching, and go. And also whether the ownership will help him do that, whether they give him the money to do that. Because you can't, go shopping at TJ Maxx and expect to look like a model.
Right. Is there any tension between the rotation and all the everyday players?
No, not as much as maybe in years past, because I think, like, they see the players working, like the offense, they're trying. It's just not happening for whatever reason. But this team works as hard as any team I've ever seen in terms of putting in extra work. Like, I'm looking out there now, I got 5 or 6 guys out for early BP. Sometimes I wonder if they do too much because they just, and they do all the ground ball work and defensively and stuff. They're giving the maximum amount of effort to have success, and I think the pitchers recognize that. But, like, yeah, I mean, because a couple of years ago when Jesse Winker was out in the outfield and he was boxing balls, but he never did anything to get better, there were some pitchers that had issues. But, like, if the pitchers have issues, they haven't said it privately, and they're certainly not going to say it publicly.
Yeah.
Now, Dan Wilson takes over. Edgar Martinez, I understand, is coming in as hitting coach. Is there a chance that these two guys are there going forward, or is this purely, do you think, Ryan, just an interim thing, at least in terms of Dan being the manager?
No, they said he's the full-time manager.
Oh, they did?
Forward,
okay.
Which is really odd. I mean, like, I was really surprised by that. And that makes me kind of think that maybe Jerry's around for next year because Dan's going to be around. Like, if you're going to fire Jerry and bring in a guy to, as your president of baseball operations or whatever, you want that guy to be able to pick your own manager.
Right.
So I don't know. I'd be stunned unless Dan is, they've said this full time, but Dan says, after 34 games, this isn't for me. I don't want to do this.
Mm-hmm.
Because that was kind of the reason why he's never been on the big league staff or anything like that, is he had kids and family and he wanted to spend time with them. Yeah. Edgar Martinez is an interim. He's just filling in until the end of the season. He'd been the hitting coach for a while, I think 4 or 5 years full time, and before giving it up, just like he got older, the travel and everything else. It was funny. We always joke they wanted Edgar to be the hitting coach for so long, and he said, no, I want to spend time with my kids. And then both of his daughters became teenagers, and he's like, yep, ready to be a hitting coach.
I can see that.
That's awesome. Hey, Ryan, I was just wondering about Julio Rodriguez and his season with 11 homers and 38 RBIs. And I was thinking to myself, man, if Vladdy had a year like that, how would we talk about him? What would that do to his reputation? How do you think this year we talk about Julio going forward?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think the one thing that maybe saves Julio a little bit is that he's 22. He just turned 22, and so he's younger in that regard. And a lot of his success came early. But yeah, it's been a bad season. I mean, like the power numbers are down. Then he's missed a lot of time with injuries and other things. So it's like, his star has taken a hit a little bit. I mean, he's out there and he's, the effort is there, but the results aren't. And he's going to have to reassess kind of who he is as a hitter and how he's going to approach things. I think, he made some changes in the offseason designed to help him have more consistency, and it made it worse. It's the Bo Bichette thing, like these guys, they come around, Corbin Carroll, like Julio changed a bunch of stuff with his setup and his stance, thinking that it was going to fix him and make him better. And it didn't, but he wouldn't change it. Like he just says, no, I'm sticking with this. Well, a month into the season, it wasn't working. He should have scrapped it, but he had, it didn't happen until almost after the All-Star break where he said, no, I got to make a change. Well, no, that should have came within a month. I mean, Mitch Haniger made some changes in the offseason. It wasn't working for him. He's like, no, we got to scrap it right away. Like 3 weeks into the season, got to go back. Julio didn't do that, I think, out of loyalty to his personal hitting guy, and I think that's a problem. And so he's going to have to reassess who he is as a hitter and refine it, because he doesn't pull the ball for any power. And what's kind of happened is even like the natural power he had to right and right center, it's kind of lacking as well, because he's just a mess, and he's become predictable to pitch to. You don't have to throw him strikes. He gets himself out. So, he's got some tough questions to answer. And while the fans are probably not pleased, this is a guy that holds himself to a pretty high standard and has pretty lofty goals of who he thinks he's going to be in this game. And this isn't part of the script of that. You finish in the top 10 in MVP voting your first 2 years, and you throw a clunker like this where you're well below league average. It's not ideal.
Ryan, we appreciate your time and your insight. Thanks so much, man.
Thanks, Ryan.
Be well.
Yeah. You guys enjoy your guys' off-season front office search and all that stuff that I'm expecting to happen as well.
Take care, man.
Thanks, Ryan.
See you, Ryan.
See ya.
Yeah.
Ryan Divish of the Seattle Times. He's a lot of fun.
Yes. He sounds like it.
Oh, he is a lot of fun. I mean, you gotta guys who cover a team, guys who do the beat, like you have to develop almost a gallows sense of humor.
You do.
Like you just do, because it's not like I can tell you that having to watch and write bad baseball is worse than having to watch and talk about bad baseball. It just is.
Yeah.
It just is.
Eh.
Invent
ways to be positive is hard.
The Mariners, their starting rotation, their numbers are silly.
Yeah, it's crazy good.
It's
they're the poster child for you need both. You need both, especially when you got the Astros in your division. Oh, look what the Blue Jays have to deal with, right? I mean, you just can't. Your pitching staff's not always going to be able to do it. You need your lineup to carry your team for like a month at a time.
The Astros made up a 10-game deficit.
Crazy, right?
In like 3 months, 2.5 months.
It's crazy.
And they didn't do it. They weren't completely healthy when they did it. 416-413-3959, the back leg line. We've got time. Let's listen to a few more callers. I haven't heard from this guy for a while. Curtis in Tabor, Alberta.
When a player reaches free agency, how is their value determined?
Like I don't understand how earlier in the year Vladdy would be worth nothing. A guy has 2 good months, and all of a sudden you got to give him half the world. Bo, you look at Bo, led the league in American League in hits for 2 years, has 1 bad year, and seems to be worth nothing. Like, how are these players valued by baseball to know what is a fair offer for them? Just wondering what your thoughts are, and also what is the actual latest date they could sign Vladdy to an extension?
I mean,
when does the clock strike 0? Love to hear your comments. Take care. Enjoy the show.
Thanks, Curtis. I mean, they can sign him to an extension whenever. They can sign him to an extension tonight if they want. They can sign him to an extension on Christmas Day. I think the Jays did that with Lyle Overbay, as a matter of fact, around Christmas Day. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they could. I mean, there's no. You can really negotiate. I mean, you can negotiate with a guy up until he signs with another team. So, as far as the value goes, I mean, the way we talk about WAR. There are mathematical evaluations teams use to decide not so much how much you pay a player, but whether or not a player is good value or not. I've always thought that when it comes to free agents, like, you got to understand, because we sit here and say Bo's value is down. It may not be down. Like, there may be a GM out there who looks at Bo and says,
all in.
I'm all in. I get that dude in my team.
We roll. Yeah.
I mean, it's just the way it works.
Yeah.
It's why when guys become free agents, every year there's a guy where you go, what the hell?
Yeah. You only need one team.
You only need one team.
It.
That it really is. And I think what people underestimate a lot of the times is the depth of the market. Like, you look at this year, and this is one of the reasons there haven't been many managers fired this year, because they're still Seattle's 7.5 games out of the wild card spot. Is that completely out of the realm of possibility that they make it? Not really, no. I mean, it's going to be hard, but it's not out of the realm of possibility. There are really only like 4 or 5 teams in the American League that are dead right now. Mm-hmm. And, that can be misleading. Like, you look at the Blue Jays. The Blue Jays were a playoff team last year, and I really believe they underreacted. They thought, okay, we're a playoff team last year. Yeah, we lost that game to Minnesota, but we're a playoff team. We can get back there with the same bullpen. We can get back there with the same rotation. We can get back there by bringing in, Justin Turner. And I think that's the thing that sometimes people don't understand is the value of a player in the market depends on the depth of that market. Like, if, for example, let's say Juan Soto signs, and this probably won't happen because he's a Boris agent. Let's say Juan Soto signs with the Yankees tomorrow.
Yeah.
Pete Alonso suddenly has become more valuable in the free agent market because there's one less slugger,
less competition,
or whatever other outfielders.
Anthony Santander was to sign with the Orioles.
Santander, exactly. Yep. So a lot of that. That's why I say, I'm always kind of careful. We assume that because a guy is having a down year, it means that his value is down.
I would think a little bit of that too is, what have you done for me lately? And lately he's been injured, Bo. Injured, and when he was playing, it wasn't real good.
That is the other thing.
Yeah. Like, you got to sell it to why people that are writing the checks, you got to sell it to why they're writing the check, right? And how would you do that to an injured player? I think that was, what have you done for me lately? There's a combination of a bunch of things, I think, to your point.
Yeah. Liz in Toronto.
And Kevin, I missed you, and I'm sure I speak for a lot of the fans. Welcome back.
Yeah, let's just forget about Liz. Let's move on to Chuck.
The Mark Shapiro press conference a few weeks ago. And one of the questions was, and again, I'm not quoting, but why not take a page out of the Baltimore Orioles and Cleveland Guardians book and, reorganize the team, spend less money, get new management. And I remember Mark Shapiro saying something like, that's a really dangerous thing to do. And in my opinion, it would make so much sense because look at where Baltimore and the Guardians are right now in the standings. But I wanted to ask you guys what you thought of that with a reorg, spending less, getting new management and so on, and what you thought of that. Thanks so much, and have a good weekend.
Thanks,
Big
Liz.
fan.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
Liz.
Thanks. I think they've kind of done that the last couple of years. I don't want to say the spending less because they got a big payroll.
Yeah, I do not. You've got Gossman, Barrios.
Yeah.
This is not an easy. It's weird. This is not an easy team to tear down and rebuild.
It's not.
And it's
You'd have
not
to
an
sell
easy
it to
market.
the guys that are going to be here for
and
years.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's not an easy market to do it in. Next year, if Bo and Vladdy are gone, Springer's got a year left in his contract. I can see it would be a lot easier to do it next year. But I also, this ownership is different than the Orioles ownership was. It's different than the Guardians ownership. It's got more money. I just don't see them feeling, and I'm not going to speak for ownership, but I'm saying from where I am,
yeah,
I just don't think they necessarily feel the need to do that. And on a purely selfish note, I'll just say this: I wouldn't want these guys to do the.
I don't think they have to
rebuild.
do it. That's what I said. I don't think they're far away. I think you add a couple of thumpers and maybe get you a closer.
Yeah, no,
you get creative. You do some things like that. You make it easier for your manager, whoever your manager is.
Yeah, the issue for me is still the Vladdy thing. That's.
I'm in the camp. If they'd have loved him, they would have done it already.
If you don't get Vladdy signed, you are basically. If you don't get Vladdy signed,
I would think it would take another front office to do that.
I think you're probably right.
I'm in that camp.
I think you're probably right. I think that's a pretty safe assessment.
That's a great call, though, Liz. I just don't. I'm not sure this owner now has it in him. I think he's
new ballpark.
I think he's seeing what it could look like. But playoffs is fun.
Oh yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Consistently being good
playoffs
is fun.
Are good. Playoffs are
I mean, the Jays have been not good for some quite time, and they're better now, and they can be consistently good.
But Liz, that's why I don't know what to read into why nothing has been done with Vlad. I don't know what that means. Does that mean, maybe the organization thinks that it can get something for Vlad and Bo in the trade market at some point? I'm not saying trade them all in the same day, but I'm saying maybe they feel they can do that. They can bring some, some more talent in here and maybe reset. I think the idea is resetting your window. But yeah, it's.
You imagine those two on the market at the same time next year? Holy moly!
Yeah,
man.
And I get back because Vladdy's young.
We
forget that.
He's really young.
Vladdy's young.
And so's Bo.
Vladdy's young. Vladdy's going to be a free agent at like 26 and change. He's what? How many? We've got Aaron Judge on MLB Network. They're watching her. How old's Aaron Judge again?
30.
Yeah, Vladdy's 4 years younger than Aaron Judge. Anyhow.
That dude's hitting. He's going to hit 60 again.
Yeah, he is. I don't think there's any doubt about
Talking
that.
about breathing a different air.
First ballot Hall of Famer? Just kidding. That's it for
matters to me, Jeff.
That's it for Blair and Barker. I'll be doing Blue Jays talk tonight following the game. Barker is just too much of a star to do that. But we will be back on Monday. It'll be Danny Jansen Day on Monday. Yeah. Join us then. Have a great weekend.